Hi everyone, it's October 12th, 2023, and this is the weekly Backdrop Developer Meeting. We get together every week on this recording to talk about development tasks for Backdrop CMS. My name is Nate Lampton. I'm QuickSketch on the internet. I'm core committer and technical lead for the Backdrop project, calling in from Oakland, California. Let's see, we'll do some introductions of the people that are here in the meeting first to start things off. We'll start with Greg and then we'll go to Andy.
Hi, my name is Greg. I'm joining from Greece, usually in Melbourne though. I've been trying to keep up with the HAQ and things that have been happening the past couple of months while I was mostly away. Yeah, excited to see things progress and here to help in any way that I can.
Great, thanks Greg. Andy, if you're available.
Yeah, Andy, says W official today. Wilmot on the issue. Haven't been around much myself in field work. September, October, usually one of our busiest times. But 3 years after, I'm glad to see you guys, glad to see everybody here. Looking forward to the discussion this evening.
Great, thanks Doug Wilmot. We'll go to Jen and then Joseph.
Jen Lampton, joining from Oakland, California, known as Jen Lampton on the internet.
Thanks, Jen. Joseph?
Hi, I'm Joseph. I'm a developer from Las Vegas, Nevada. And I'm just here to check in and see what's going on.
Great. All right. Before we get into specific issues and topics, Jen, are there any community updates?
Yeah, we have a new showcase this week. Bug Folder provided a showcase on a site that I'm not sure I'm going to pronounce correctly. It's Ona Codinensa. I don't know. It's a local radio station nonprofit that he built a site for, which is pretty cool. Looks like it came from WordPress. I don't think there's anything else in community. Oh, no, that's right. Okay.
Let's see, and you can find those at backdropcms.org/showcase. Great. All right. Let's see. For topics for today, we're a little bit light on topics to discuss. There wasn't anything in the forum this week specifically to cover, but there is a lot of news that's been happening. First of all, Backdrop 126.1 came out last Friday, so October 6th. So we have a nice shiny release that is out. That release was driven kind of by two things. One, our normal timeline for bug fix releases is 2 weeks after a minor release, if one is necessary. And for better or worse, there was a release necessary for 126. We had a regression in it that Windows computers could not use the project installer, but that got quickly resolved, and that was the impetus for the 126.1 release. There were also 20 other fixed issues in the 126.1 release and other UX changes. And one thing that was kind of just tossed in there is an addition to telemetry, tracking whether or not multi-sites were popular or not. And so that telemetry data gets tracked by sites that have turned on the telemetry module, and then it sends the information to backdropcms.org under project/backdrop/telemetry. So it's just on the main Backdrop project page. There's a tab for telemetry. And in there, we now have actually, I guess, two new things. There's the multi-site setup, whether or not sites are being set up as multi-site or a standalone install, and CKEditor version now being reported as well, which currently 100% of all sites reporting are version 4, because I think that's the only version that's reporting currently. Let's see, it looks like there's about 500 or so sites that are reporting. Actually, it's only the very latest installs that that are reporting multi-site information. There's about 150 total sites that are reporting that information. And much to my surprise, so far 25% of our sites are multi-site, which I think might have been spurred on a little bit by the discussion in the issue queue, where I was like, if you're using multi-site, turn on telemetry module so that we know you're using multi-site. And
I think
maybe
that it goes hand in hand with our usage. So if you look at the usage stats, and people need to have updated to the newest version in order to report that. So we have telemetry for other metrics for about like roughly 500 sites, but the metrics that we have for the multi-site are currently in the 150, 160 range. So yeah.
Yep. So it's possible that the multi-site people updated their sites faster than other people that are just running standalones, but still, I was a little bit surprised to see that.
You expected it lower?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I definitely expected it lower. That is surprising.
Do
yeah,
we?
Even if it stays above 5%, I'm going to be surprised.
Would we be interested to see the size of that, like not specific ones? I mean, like have ranges as in a multi-site of 0 to 5 or 1 to 5 sites, 5 to 15 and above, to see the scale that people are using it. Would we be interested to gather such information or not? Is yes, no enough?
Yeah, that's interesting. So we could actually do that. We could count the number of directories or count the number of entries in sites.php and actually say like size, multi-site size. It doesn't work. Our telemetry data doesn't work that great the more entries that you have, though. I guess maybe if we broke it down into like 1 through 5, 5 through 50, 50 through 500 or something like that, into smaller segments, and then had that report, that would be that would be useful to know, I guess, in a way.
Because you have like at
would we
work
use
we have
that
certain
information?
customers. Sorry, go ahead.
What would we need that information for though? What would change if we knew that?
So at work we have sites that have like 12,000 websites, and it's university websites. So it will it will give us an understanding of whether anonymously of whether big scale like projects or entities are using Backdrop.
Yeah, so it would kind of tell us whether or not like how many projects are like small scale, like running 2 or 3 multi-sites together, or like university scale, like if they're running like 50 plus. But I agree, I'm not like totally sure what what that would mean as far as the way that we treat things. I think just even, well, I don't know. I guess you could try to say things like the more like 2 to 5 multi-sites there are, that actually implies more users or more like separate projects, which could give it additional weight, because there could be like one person or one organization that could eventually have like 500 Backdrop sites all on one multi-site install, and that could skew the numbers like dramatically to us thinking tons of people are using multi-site when in fact it's like 1 or 2 large organizations.
Yep.
But I don't know, there's a lot of other stuff that we could be tracking in telemetry. I think once I kind of knew this was going to happen, and once we got going, it's going to be like, oh well, let's get some more because it's really great to have this kind of data.
I think that we've over the years we've added there's a needs telemetry or metrics label,
Mm-hmm.
so we can go through the issues that have been tagged as such and see if we can get these moving if we gathered enough information. It's interesting to if you look at our usage stats, though, it's interesting to see that we are also inflicted by the same problem that the Drupal community had, where you have certain sites that are moving at like there may be 1 or 2 versions behind, but not further than that. But there's some that have been built and forgotten, like in outdated versions now, and insecure as well.
Sorry, what was
So-
your point there? That there were sites just not being updated?
Yeah, so that we have quite a well, it's not a big percentage, but it's an interesting percentage of sites that are being built once and then not being looked after that point. They're just in and I'm not talking about the single 1 or 2 or 3 installations. I'm talking about a few hundreds or a few dozen installations being outdated. So it's interesting.
The one question I had about multi-sites though is I get the impression over the years that multi-site isn't something that Drupal or Backdrop seem to focus on from a developer point of view. I don't hear much about multi-sites being said. But if we discover through our telemetry that people who use Backdrop tend to be large scale users, or we have more multi-site users than we thought, perhaps we should start looking into multi-site itself to see whether there are any improvements that we need to make, if it actually is something that is used more than we thought it was.
Yeah. So the telemetry, I think, helps us in a couple of areas. First of all, is whether we should be actually spending time either adding features that make it easier to manage multi-sites, or also, that there's this argument that Backdrop is not for enterprise. Well, if we have the statistics and we say, look, there's sites that are using like hundreds of, they're enterprise Z, so like, it doesn't necessarily say that they're enterprise. It could be a small organization managing a lot of websites, but usually, like, if you reach the hundreds of multi-sites in a single installation, then that stops being what you call it, a simple small business thing. As in, it would be an argument to say, look, there's a few entities out there that are using Backdrop to manage hundreds of websites or more, dozens of websites.
Yep. The main reason I wanted to collect this telemetry information to start with was to evaluate whether or not we should even support multi-site. Like I've always kind of been like, who uses multi-site, and maybe it's not very important. And I think that was the thing that got a lot of people a little worried that we might actually remove it. Because even like Backdrop Core, the way that it's set up now, unlike Drupal, which still kind of forces you to use the sites directory and sites default settings.php, Backdrop really just has the sites directory. There's nothing in it except for like a README in the sites.php file, because settings.php is in the root to like make it more visible to the single site use case. So we really kind of moved Backdrop in a direction that it was like made much more for single site installs, and de-emphasized the multi-site capability quite a lot. But it's still there, and to some people's initial impressions, they actually thought that we had removed it entirely already because the sites directory was so de-emphasized. What's that?
When did the telemetry checking go in?
It went with 126. I think .1.
Okay.
I can check that. I think .1, and then someone needs to go and manually edit the node that gathers that information in Backdrop CMS in order to receive that and display it. To your point, one of the older issues that I recall that is related to that metric, Nate, is the one about whether we should have a profiles directory in the root directory. So that was one of the issues that was tagged needs telemetry specifically when we knew whether and how we have the profiles as well. If
Yeah,
people are
we're
using other,
we're tracking profiles as well. Yeah, the profile, which almost like 500 are running standard and like 5 are running something else, and there's
Yeah.
like 4 different ones, which is kind of interesting. That one also made me realize that we need some more granularity on the way that we're doing it right now. When options are sent in, we just say like whether or not it's a version or a string, and the string based ones have some potential for like publishing out kind of potentially sensitive information, like the name of your install profile, for example. Because I see that Triplo is one of the installation profiles, and if you are a university or a business and you named your install profile something that had the name of your organization in it, then we would now be publicizing the name of your organization out to backdropcms.org, which might not be desirable for everybody. And I think it would be a real shame if if certain sites decided to turn off telemetry entirely because they were specifically being shown.
Yeah.
Also, that seems like
just-
something that could be abused. So like maybe people want something to appear up there. They might start spinning up backdrop sites to advertise whatever it is they want to show on that page. So I think you
So-
might not want it or you might want it, but yeah, either way, we should get rid of it.
The
Maybe-
one that says custom, by the way, is one of ours.
Right.
And I was just experimenting with overriding telemetry values. That's actually the only site we have telemetry turned on for, because our business name is in our install profile name.
Okay,
Yep.
so perhaps we should, now that we know better, I'll raise an issue that we only gather whether it's a core standard profile or not. So we group all the non-standard ones as a single one, because now we know that 500 sites, 99% of them is standard installation profile.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good idea as well. I was thinking something more
Core or non-core, yeah.
I was thinking something more flexible on the telemetry reporting side, like the project module project telemetry. That we should, for those string-based ones, have more configuration where you could go in and view the whole list of things that you're that are getting reported, and then like use checkboxes to actually include specific ones in the public facing information.
Okay.
And that way it would filter down the list into things that were
Doesn't that screw up all our data though?
I mean it would I mean
We could make it so that anything that's not checked gets thrown into other.
yeah,
Other.
you could do
Yeah,
that.
everyone
Other.
would need another, but
Yeah.
that's a good option.
But we might want to do that for things like MySQL versions too, where they're kind of like just most of them make sense, but then you get a couple of ones that are just kind of one-off weird installs of MySQL, and we could just group those all together in other. Okay.
Yeah, I had an issue. I had an issue open where because certain MariaDB installations report both the MariaDB version and the MySQL version, and then it depends on which one is. Anyways, but I had a PR ready that kind of fixed that. I need to go back and find it. But you're right that there's this single site that always bothers me that reports, like everything else is a numeric version with dots, and there's only a single one instance that says MySQL version 5.5. It's like the annoying. Yeah.
Yep.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Lots of really surprising information. 97% of people use Linux as their hosting, which is great. I guess that's not too surprising, but
Yes.
It's
yeah.
the 3% that surprises me.
The Windows or
well, there's
Darwin.
1% Windows, 1% Mac, 1% BSD. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, that's enough about telemetry. It's exciting that we're collecting that information, and it has some interesting data. Let's see. So yeah, 126.1 came out last week. Has that telemetry information has the Windows installer regression fixed and 20 other issues. The thing was is that we were so driven to get out that release last Friday or last week because of the regression that we ended up having to leave a whole bunch of RTBC issues that had been accumulating for a while not in the release. But that's made it so that 1.26.2, the next bug fix release, already has 16 closed issues in it, and it's only been a week since 1.26.1 came out. So we're going pretty fast here on a velocity scale, but I think a lot of that is because the RTBC queue had been kind of neglected for a little while, so there was a big backlog. It's effectively empty now. If Robert is out there somewhere, maybe his ears are ringing, and maybe we could get some more issues in the RTBC queue. But anyway, I'm really appreciative of all of the issues that that were moved forward, and I think bug folder is a really big part of why we had so many RTBC issues available.
One indicative issue was the one that removed the default tag from views, and because the PR was so old, it would still apply, it was still good. But in the meantime, we've added a new view in Backrub, the one that displays the promoted cards in the front page. So I reopened that issue because we missed that tag from that view. So yeah.
Yeah, there's unfortunately a lot of pull requests like that where the pull requests are open like more than a year ago, and they required no changes, and they were just ready to be merged here like 1-2 years later. And I hate it when that happens, but you know, getting stuff reviewed is sometimes really difficult.
We discussed about having a way to perhaps automatically rebase if there were no conflicts or things like that, just to make sure that because the older ones as well, the side effect of that is that they don't run the spell checks and coding standards checks that we have recently implemented. So we might be reintroducing typos or things like that. But yeah, it's a good idea to rebase pull requests before they get merged.
Yeah, you know, related to that, I've noticed on some of my other GitHub projects that there's a button in the GitHub interface to like merge in main, but that's not on Backdrop's repository. I wonder if that must be a GitHub setting that we might need to turn on, because that would make life a lot easier for people if you could just click a button to rebase or merge in main instead of needing to do anything locally. I'll look into that, unless Jen, you're already
No, I'm
looking.
not. I was just trying to figure out, like, I feel like the button doesn't appear if you can't rebase it. I'm not sure if you've just
It
not
could
seen
be-
any issues or you can, but
Well, you rebase your branch, basically. So people that trigger the rebase should be doing it on their repo, and then the PIR gets automatically updated, the branch that it pulls from. That's what I have been doing manually.
yeah, there, but I don't think the button appears if there's a conflict that'll make a rebase impossible. I think it scans and it chooses what buttons to.
Yeah, it actually
you.
still, I think it still shows it to you, but it just says that it can't do it. And so it like disables the button, I believe. But yeah, unclear why that's not an option. Maybe that's like a paid account only sort of situation, since most of my work things are paid accounts, but usually the open source ones have most things, but I don't know, GitHub is probably trying to push people into the paid features a little bit, I bet.
It'd be because we have numbered branches instead of having it like a single branch called main.
I don't think that matters, because I think the default branch is
It looks
what
like the default
matters. Yeah.
Okay.
But maybe. Oh, hey, I think I see it. Require lock branch. It might weirdly be under a branch protection rule. So I'll look into that. Even though it's not branch protection, but it might actually enable the feature. Okay, let's see. One other thing in 126.2 that I think is worth mentioning is issue 4451. Remove all instances of master and slave terminology from core finally was completed. And I'm so excited about that I'm not going to cringe every time I open up the other options inside of views and see like use slave database or
Can I say
slave
something
server.
related?
Yeah.
Actually, cspell allows you to have forbidden words in your code base, so that pull request should add the forbidden rule, so that these do not creep back in.
Oh, that would be such a good idea. And we should, I'm not sure that we actually, I think we tried to do it, or maybe we did already remove blacklist and whitelist as well. And so, yeah, that would be great. Blacklist, whitelist, webmaster, yeah, slave, all of those things. That would be great to prevent
raise
those
an issue
kinds of
about that.
regressions. Can it, I'm not sure that we should start doing this sort of thing, but because I think it only checks comments, but I guess I'm getting into like JavaScript linting where we've got a bunch of pull requests around not using deprecated jQuery functionality. And there's a lot of pull requests out there that I've seen that are like reintroducing things that we're trying to get rid of. The trim function in particular, I've noticed, keeps cropping back up because there's now a JavaScript native trim, but a lot of existing code and ported code uses $.trim. And that would be nice to stop accidentally reintroducing that.
Yeah, it could go either in our coding standards checks or use the cspell thing to actually catch those things.
Yeah, I think cspell only checks code comments and strings, though. I don't think it actually.
I've seen
checks
it.
function names.
No, it checks variables too, like variable names.
Okay, well maybe it would. Now I'm not even sure cspell is checking JavaScript files.
That is purely based on configuration, like the configuration of cspell with extensions it checks, I guess. So yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's just a random thought I had. All right. Let's see. Those are the topics on.
I just had another thought, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So I was trying to update a really old module, a Flex slider, not Flex slider, Nevo slider. It's like one of the first things I ported. And I wanted to see if it could use SVG files. And so that got me down the road of trying to get Core to use SVG files. So I've done a PR for that. It seems to work fine for one minor thing, but I was just wondering if there is any thought as to whether that would be something that's useful to me. SVG is popular these days. It seems a shame that our fields and the CK editor doesn't use it. So
my take on it is a lot of back in GovCMS land, a lot of agencies were asking for it because the what is it called, the departments that are looking after their designs, I think the artistic, whatever they call it. So basically, the designers were asking for it. And I've been following the Drupal.org issues, and I've been updating our respective issues in the issue queue. The main holdback was that, in theory, SVG files can contain scripts. So I think that what Drupal has ended up doing is they have a function or something that sanitizes, that basically removes any script, what you call it, proper attribute within the SVG thing.
Yeah, there's a module for that.
Yeah. So we should be careful and try to see if that is a thing. And yeah. So yeah. But yeah, there's a lot of people that ask that because it scales on as you increase the decrease sizes, and it also creates smaller images in certain cases. So yeah.
Andy, are you talking about users uploading SVGs or using SVG icons just in general, like in the admin themes and stuff like that? Okay, users.
Users. PR4539 to allow image fields to do SVG so we can support JPEG,
Yeah.
PNG, SVG,
The other
and
the
also
other
the SD what do you call it, the CK editor image library browser
Mm.
support SVG icons as well.
the only caveat there with SVGs is that because the various what do they call it, the GD libraries, they don't support resizing, so that they cannot create thumbnails. But I think there's a module for that, or there's a workaround. But yeah, it was one other caveat.
There's also like a minor security issue with SVGs because they're code that you can embed stuff in the SVG and have it look like an image and have someone upload it to the site and have it do something naughty. But I think that's why it wasn't like enabled by default for.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
I would
bug.
be, yeah, I would be in favor of, I mean, the thing is that like security concerns or not, I think that if we put adequate warnings on things and just say like SVGs in particular are of security concern, like we could manage that with some warning or something like that on the image field configuration, just to give people an additional like, hey, SVGs are particularly problematic. But yeah, image styles too, like I think that the solution that we have for image styles is that if you use an image style on an SVG, this is what I've seen on Drupal sites, that it just doesn't do anything, like, because they really can't be manipulated in the same way as any other kind of image.
It could add attributes for like width and height.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's how they solve that. It's
And
not
that,
necessary to be image styles because they scale perfectly anyway. So you could just resize it to any size you want. So,
Yep.
yeah, because SVGs are basically XHTML or the security concern that you mentioned then is what I said previously. So Drupal makes sure that if there is a script attribute contained or a non-standard attribute that is required, it strips everything from there. So it mitigates any security concerns. So it does that on upload.
On
on
upload, okay,
upload. Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting because that's not foolproof. Like normally we do stuff on output because if something gets into your files directory, there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, but we don't have any filtering on images currently, so that would be a whole new puzzle to solve. So upload
But they've done it in
easier.
Drupal, so we can still work that has already been done.
Yeah.
But
At
that's
least
on
you can
upload, not on.
delete a file in Backdrop.
Yeah. Oh my God, Drupal. So annoying.
And
The
you can
code
replace a
deploy
file
annoying.
too. Yeah, which is very nice. Okay, well this is great, Andy. I'm gonna go ahead and say we need test coverage. But yeah, this is great. Okay, so that issue is 5541 is the parent issue. That's great, and looks like Martin is in here giving you some feedback too.
Thought I had when the dog exploded is that we could do the same thing and not enable SVGs by default. And then if somebody enabled it, we could put a warning on the status report that's like, make sure it's only for trusted users. And that way we wouldn't have to warn them on every upload field, but it would only be like at the moment when they turn it on. And then right now you can't even do that because the image thing is like hard coded. So thank you, Dr. Wilmot, for working on that. I've wanted this for a while and I keep trying and failing to get it done. So it's great.
Well, keep going.
Great. I wonder. Never mind. I was thinking that maybe we could rasterize SVGs to make it so you could still use image styles on them, but I'm not sure that that's feasible or practical. So I think we should just do what's the solution that has always been there. I mean, this problem has been around in Drupal land for decades. So great. I will say also related to SVGs that it would be nice if we just started using them in our admin CSS. the CKEditor 5 does use SVGs for its entire toolbar finally, which is nice. But there's already a lot of issues for that. I think one of the worst offenders is the table drag icon is still an image. And with a lot of people, using Control Plus these days to like enlarge in the entire website, things like that table drag ping just don't look great when you start scaling them up.
All right,
There's an issue for that.
I've got to go. I've got another meeting.
Okay.
So,
Thanks.
bye. Thanks.
Okay, thanks for dropping in.
Is it time, just like bigger picture, that we start working on the 2.x branch? Like, because that could be where we start to do some of this stuff, like, tasks that we have been not working on because we don't have a branch to pull them against. Things like replacing these icons, updating theme function markup, just like stuff that we've been like afraid to touch in the 1.x cycle.
Oh, I don't know.
It's only 2 years away.
It will be another branch to maintain that.
It'll only be 1 year away starting in January. And so that means that all of the changes we want in Backdrop 2 have to be done in 1 year.
Is that
Which is-
really the case? I thought it was, I guess you're right.
January 2025.
2025, yeah.
Yeah,
I thought we said that it was not going to be before then, not necessarily
Yeah.
that it had to be at that time.
that is true. But
The other thing is that we can leave it to last minute and say, no, we're not merging anything else. But now we can start merging, and like we create the branch and then we can start merging. But yeah,
Yeah. Well,
Does-
I think that's a huge topic, and maybe we don't have time to cover it today, but we just have a
Okay.
couple minutes.
and you had an update for CKEditor as well.
Yeah, so CKEditor, I've been working on it the past week. Indigo Gonzalez has been assisting as usual. And we got issue number 1 in the CKEditor 5Q resolved, which is integrate the image library into CKEditor. So there's not a release of CKEditor yet. This just happened yesterday. But now the image button properly opens up the image browser, and then you can insert an image, and you also can edit an image, and it will open up. It'll still show the balloon, but then there's an edit button inside the balloon to re-edit the image in the dialog. So that's great. That was a real sticking point for our CKEditor integration. It seems like it wasn't that bad, but as usual, it's like, it's only like 50 lines, but it's the right 50 lines, right? So, but that also was a good learning experience that I think that we could take the pattern that we used there to apply it to links as well, because there's that weird problem with links that the bubble opens and then the dialog opens. We could switch links to being dialog first and then bubble secondary, which is the way that the image system works. So I'm excited and optimistic about that. Also, there's a new version of CKEditor 5 that just came out last week. It's version 40, which has a focus actually on better image attribute handling. In particular, width and height handling has gotten a lot better apparently in version 40. So we're going to update our CKEditor 5 module to use that, and then also work on the the handling of width and height over in our module. So
We were using version 38, right? And then 39 also had fixed issues with attributes classes, I think, being stripped from I tags, or I can't remember, but it was, I recall that was fixed in Drupalland as well. So yeah, we get the benefits of that as well.
Yeah, still kind of shocking that we're many years into CKEditor 5's existence now. It's like, yay, we can handle image size now. Like a width, actually, I guess width already kind of worked, but height was just never set. Like it just didn't support height on images, which is just like, it's just there's just a lot of problems.
Going back to at some point, we're going to have both modules, right? 7 and 5. There might be sites that have certain, as they migrate, they move from one format to another. They might have text formats that have CK editor 4 and CK editor 5, right? Or
Mhm.
or is the plan to, because we're not going to have a migration, a fully functional 100% working conversion process,
We
right?
should, but the likelihood of that happening is
Yes.
very slim. In
So-
a
so
perfect
back-
world, people would not need to know what CK editor was or what version they
Yeah.
were on, but that's
Back-
not the world we live in.
Back to our metrics then, we need to fix how we gather metrics for CK editor 4 and 5, because there might be sites that have both, there might sites.
We did
So
that,
we need,
yeah.
we need,
That
we
went
need to
in
know.
when CK editor with 1.26.0.
Okay.
Well,
But it's
not
it's
quite.
not counting. It's using the CK editor version from core all the time, I think, and it detects that.
But the
But
contrib
yeah,
module will also have a hook that does the same thing.
okay.
And the contrib module will not only put in its version as a separate entry, but it'll also say both versions enabled if the core version is still enabled. So it'll tell us if it's only one, only the other, or both will have all of the data.
Enabled then in use in a format, right? Because if
I
it
don't
was,
remember.
Yeah, we
if
didn't
it has
actually
the-
think about that aspect, but yeah,
Yeah,
I'll look into that.
Good.
Yeah.
because there is already a status report warning if
Yep.
you have CK editor enabled but you're not using it, it tells you to
Yeah.
turn off the module. So there's also
that's
that.
for 4. Does 5 do that
5 does
too?
it as well, and
They-
actually
they
there's a
both
bug.
do that.
There's a bug that actually it both of them had the entry mentioned as CK editor, so you could see an entry that say CK editor is not being used, go and use it, and then the other one was saying it is in use, and now we clarified that now because it says CK editor 5 is not in use specifically, so
Okay,
we
Yep.
sort of like, yeah.
great.
Yeah, it's clarified on the CK editor 5 side. Speaking of this, there's a new core issue that we filed last week, but I made a pull request for it that it's like a rename CK editor 4 to CK editor to CK editor 4 throughout core. And so there's a pull request for that as well to just like update the info file, update the documentation, update the hooks, everything where there's a label, it says CK editor 4 now to help distinguish it in the future from 5.
Great.
Okay.
That pull request needs a review if anybody wants to take a look at it. Okay, well, sorry, we kind of got excited there at the end, but we're all out of time. So let's wrap up for today. Thank you, everybody, for being here, and thanks to our audience out there that watches these videos. So we'll catch you guys all on the internet, and see you later.